right, so we've talked in this series about route planning and how to use your compass and all this stuff. I wanted just to do a little bit of a video on maybe some of the tools that you could consider to either have with you on your person or that is going to help planning a hike. So of course, you're going to have your compass. Your compass serves the purpose on the trail or off the trail, using it as a protractor. With the compass, I always have a whistle. This is just a Fox 40 whistle that I carry. And again, I put this on every compass that I'm going to take with me into the woods. So I always have a signaling device, not really navigation, but it's always with my compass. And because the compass has that plastic housing, or any, a compass could be lost. If I'm by myself particularly, I always have some kind of backup compass. These Sun2 clippers are fairly nice. The reason why I use this is as a backup compass in case my compass does happen to get lost, but also if I don't want to pull my compass out and I just want some cardinal directions very quickly, north, south, east, west, maybe I'm on my particular property, I don't need to do any kind of real map and compass work, but I just need some cardinal directions to reference me, I can pull this out. Also, I can use this in the city. If I'm in a new city that I'm visiting and I don't want to pull out my phone or don't have my phone or whatever, need a backup, I just need some cardinal directions so that I can line up my map. Boom, done. So I like these guys for that reason. Some additional things that you might want to have from a planning perspective: a magnifying glass, super handy from planning or to have it with you on the trail. I like a good ruler, a nice big ruler. 18 inches is great for map work, I think, because you can cover a lot more territory and you can put in your grid lines. So remember, those blue ticks lines are your UTM coordinates that you'll put in. And I like to do that with with blue, with a blue marker. These are the Bic markets. These are a fine point marker. They work great for adding in those lines. If I'm going to be putting in my own grid lines, north grid lines for figuring out my bearings, then I'm going to use a red marker for that. This could also be offset to my declination, so I have a separate red lines that I'm going to be using for measuring my angular distances, and the blue lines for finding out my position. And then lastly would be a marker for actually just marking notes on the map. Oftentimes it's either a mark that's going to indicate where I had eaten lunch, had a campsite, but most importantly I like to put in the time. So I put in the time that I took off at the trailhead, I put in the time at each one of those locations, those checkpoint locations on the map. From a planning perspective, having some kind of grid overlay works out great. So I can find exact positions on the map. Maybe I have a specific campsite that I want to go to. I can record that specific location on the map. Also, I can use this as a protractor to measure my my bearings that I want. So I can use that for direction. There's other types of grid overlays that exist. This is a larger one, also good for planning. Doesn't have the string in there, but you can use it just the same, so you don't have to pull out your compass and use it as a protractor. On the trail itself, I really find, I get ahead of myself. Highlighter is great to highlight the road that you're traveling. So if I'm using a paper map and I'm traveling down a particular road, again, it kind of gives me the ability to see where I'm going. Trails, area of operation, you can highlight around. Works out fantastic. So I do like these fine point highlighters. On the trail itself, I'd like to protect my maps with a map protector. You can get standard map protectors of different sizes. I like the smaller ones for smaller property or hunting, if I'm not hiking, covering long distance. And then I have a larger one that I use for canoeing that kind of keeps multiple maps inside that map case. And I find that to be very handy. You can use heavy-duty Ziploc bags in lieu of map cases. They work great. And then I'd like notebooks. I really like the Write in the Rain notebooks. I use this for all my navigation notes for trips, or if I want to keep tabs of tips and tricks on navigation that I've learned. I keep that in this notebook. That way I can, when I'm going out, I can practice the skills that I've learned. Maybe I read about something, I want to try to figure out, oh, how do I measure the height of the tree with my compass, which is going to be a future video. I'll write that down, the instructions down in this book, and be able to replicate that action. Also, any type of notes, references, things like that. Now, you can certainly get away with that with your pencil, just writing it on your map itself. There's some people's belief that maps need to be kept pristine, that they need to be rolled, that you don't draw on them, that they stay absolutely pristine and you don't get creases. I'm of the belief that maps are cheap and replaceable, and they are a record of your trip. And so if you're taking especially a memorable trip, it's nice to have the notes on the map itself, so if you're going to replicate that trip again, you kind of have a bigger story already kind of laid out on what your trip was like. So when you're telling the story of your trip, you have kind of a visual representation in your map with notes on where you saw moose, where you caught big fish, where you camped, so on and so forth, and how long those different legs kind of took you. And then you have kind of a good record of your trip, and you can take that and learn from that and make your next trip that much better. So I like maps that are like that. Some people cut the edges off their maps and they do all sorts of stuff. I prefer just to leave those edges on so you have something to write on. Another trick that I had was that if there are some navigation rules that you tend to forget, like least is east, or how to read a grid overlay, you know, on the back of the map is a great place to put down all of those things. The 7 principles of leave no trace. Write that out. How do you basic information on what you would want to do from a navigation standpoint before you go on your trip. Write that out in your map so that if you need to reference it and you don't have a notebook like this, you have all that information on the map itself. Even signaling. How do you signal for help? You can put that on your map. You can update your magnetic declination, and update that for use. You can put in your grid overlays. You can do all these things with the maps. I think that's the beautiful thing about working with a map is being able to draw on it, write notes, and actually use it. So with that, that's basically my navigation kit. Some tools that you can use to help with your stuff. But basically, if you have a compass and a pencil, that's all you really need. Oh, lastly, I didn't mention, is a GPS. Probably one of the least used things that I have on my kit, but certainly a great tool to have. And I can go through how to use this in a future series. So, all right.